Yes. Good evening, and good evening to the officers and members of the public to the meeting. We are also joined virtual by Councillor Maddox and also the press as well. Please can I remind everyone to switch your mobile phones to either silent or off, please. There are members of the public and press attending this meeting virtually and in person. And I please ask those attending virtually to switch off your microphone to avoid any disruption during the meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the Council's YouTube channel. A reminder, please, to ensure that those attending virtually and in person can hear the proceedings and for the recording to capture the entire meeting. Please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember it's a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to each other by first names. When addressing council, please stand if you're able to do so. There is no fire alarm planned. Therefore, upon hearing a constant two-tone alarm, please leave the building by your nearest marked fire exit and make your way down to the stairs to the nearest assembly point, which is the short stay car park. Lifts are not to be used. Please do not take time to pick up personal belongings and leave the building promptly. Thank you. Item 1. Apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, received apologies from Councillors Leatherby, Trinos, Renshaw and Whitehead, and Councillor Maddox is attending the meeting virtually but will not be able to take part in the vote, Chair.
And Councillor Turton
as well, doing a public meeting.
Thank you. Item 2, to approve the correct record of the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of February 2024, pages 11 to 26. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. All in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item 3. Item 3, Chair's announcement. I don't have one except I went to the only one I've done. My last one was today at Ilfracombe, in the pasty there. Absolutely lovely, and get a chance. It was a bit breezy. The sea breeze coming in, a bit cold, but done a fantastic job there, and I'd like to thank the parks and Dominique and everyone else involved in setting that forward. And thank you, everyone else. Item 4, business brought forward by or with the consent of the chair. There is none. Item 5, replies to any questions submitted by the public and or to receive petitions under Part 4 Council Procedures Rules, paragraph 89 of the Constitution. Number C, item 6, to consider motion which motion has been submitted by members in accordance with Part 4 Council Procedure Rules, paragraph 11 of the Constitution. Number C, there is one. There is one. I do apologise. And so A, to consider the following notion, a motion from Councillor Peter Lever. Councillor Lever, would you? I'm assuming everyone's read this, but if you'd like to.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, the intimidation of councillors and officers undermines democracy. It prevents us all representing the communities that we're a part of and we serve, and it deters people from engaging in local politics. And this motion is one that a number of councils across the country have signed up to. It's a campaign that's been instigated by the Local Government Association, which aims to promote the benefits of debate and to stop the sort of hatred and abuse that a number of the councillors and officers now routinely receive. And the Local Government Association in recent surveys found that 7 out of 10 councillors have received verbal and physical abuse in the previous 12 months. And we're not immune to this in North Devon. I mean, I know that there are councillors in this room who have been who engage in social media, who've been subject to abuse on social media, and it has affected their ability to carry out their role as community representatives. Now, while debate and disagreement is an integral part of politics, and we all enjoy it very much, councillors and officers shouldn't be subjected to abuse and intimidation because of the roles that they carry out. The motion that you've got sets out a dozen key actions that will signal our concerns to government, will send a clear message about respectful debate to each other and to our communities, and it will make sure that procedures are in place to protect officers and councillors from abuse. And I commend this motion to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
I'd just like to second the motion, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Fully support the motion. Obviously, I'm not voting on it, but as an officer, I share the views that have been expressed. Councillors and officers do come under an awful lot of abuse, and it shouldn't happen because we're all here trying to do the best for our communities, whether you're councillors or officers. So fully support the motion. But I thought it would be a useful reminder just to set out some of the support that we have got within the council if members are suffering any abuse. So we've worked closely with the LGA over the years to try and develop a suite of policies. And as part of the induction pack, they've been provided with the health and safety policy, personal safety and known working guidance. Within there is an incident reporting form as well. So if you do get any issues, that's a means of reporting it to us. We've also provided health and safety training for members, and if members want to refresh that, please approach officers and we can try and provide that. There's also a social media guide that members should have, which gives advice on as to how to interact with social media. It's always a bit of a moving feast with social media, so we can try and keep that up to date. But again, if you need fresh copies of that, then please let us know. We also sign up to the alerts around the LGA's personal safety webinars and pass that out to members from time to time as well when anything comes through. So if you do see that, then please sign up to those. They are really useful. And we also sign up to the guidance that the LGA issue. So although we've not signed up to the campaign referred to, we are closely linked in with the LGA. One of the points within the motion asks for a clear reporting mechanism which can be used to monitor and record incidents. I'd just like to say that Simon Fuller, the monitoring officer at the moment, is in contact with the Police and Crime Commissioner, and the Police and Crime Commissioner is looking to set up a system whereby the police has a single point of contact where any abuse can be reported to. And there's a meeting coming up on the 16th of April where that's going to be discussed between the group of monitoring officers across the county and the Police and Crime Commissioner to try and set that up. So there is an awful lot happening, but if members do suffer abuse or anything like that, then please approach us as officers to see what else we can do to support you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Beaver.
Sorry, Frank Beaver.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Beaver.
I thought I'll talk to Malcolm and she'll stop me. But, I will obviously thank you to Councillor Peter for bringing this forward. It's been an interesting couple of months for me, and so I'm obviously going to fully support this. And I think, like you say, some council staff as well. I think our staff are incredible, and they work incredibly hard. And I think what you read on social media is a disgrace, really. And I think why I've stood up, I think also we as whether it be councillors, officers are in a really difficult position because they can't go on social media and say things. Sometimes we shouldn't be bystanders. I think we should call it out sometimes ourselves as well. So I think that's my plea to us all, is that, as Peter said, is quite right, we'll no doubt get into some political debate here tonight, but we'll stay respectful and we'll probably still be talking to each other when we leave the room, I think. But, let's not be bystanders. Let's call it out when it's unfair and unreasonable, because it's in all our interests that we get the very best people in this room. And the way the world's going now, you won't attract the best people if this is what's happening. So yeah, fully support. Thank you.
Councillor Caroline Leader.
Thank you very much, Chair. I completely and utterly support the motion for the reasons that have been laid out by Councillor Seaver, and indeed Councillor Beekman. And I think the other thing that I would say is that certainly we have experience of parish councillors also who have in recent months, have had some extremely bad behaviour coming from residents as well, and some instances of campaigns where community tensions, I would say, have been stoked, and that I know that some of them have been in touch with the monitoring officer. And I would just like to offer our support to people at that level as well, because no councillor is immune from this at all. And I think there's something about integrity as well, because I mean, once people get on social media, it's really easy for people to say absolutely anything, to take claim for things that they've done, or for, to throw accusations around the place. I think we all need to be careful of social media. So I would like to thank actually the monitoring officer for the support he's given to the person that I think possibly who I'm talking about, who is worried about bricks through a window. After parish council meetings, where there's been abuse at those meetings, just appalling behaviour. So we all have things to say. We don't always agree, and actually nor should we. It would be embarrassing actually for us as a councillors from different political parties and independents if we all agreed on everything. How dull would that be? But also, and I think the debate is where we can explore ideas and take and improve what we come up with. So it's an absolutely integral part of this whole process of democracy. So I would certainly be voting in favour of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor.
Chair. Yeah, I absolutely support this motion too. I'd like to add that I think we all have a duty to behave appropriately as well, and be respectful to one another. And I think bringing parish councils up as well. I know that, not myself, but some other councillors who had some pretty rough times with parish councillors, and I think that level of respect should be there. Just because you represent one political party doesn't mean to say that you should be abused just for that reason. That you're all there representing the same communities, and we all need to be. We have a duty to each other as well, and to your officers. And I think that's another point you should consider.
Thank you. Okay, we've had a mover, we've had a seconder. All in favour? Thank you. Right. Item 7, declarations of interest.
I've received none, Chair.
Thank you. Item 8, Chair's replies to any questions to council by members submitted under Part 4 Council Procedure Rules, paragraph 10 of the Constitution. None received. Item 9, read the agenda between Part A and Part B. We do have a Part B. Councillor Klaus.
Chair, I'm struggling to work out why this item should be in Part B, and I'd like to hear from the monitoring officer his views on whether it should or not.
Okay, yes. So the reason this is in Part B is under the Constitution. It comes within the information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. And so in this case, it's the both the council and because we're in a live procurement process, we've got we've got potential bidders to the to the tendering process, and we haven't awarded that contract yet. So it's important that the council is aware of those figures and where that's come into. So because we haven't concluded that yet, it has to be done in Part B. So it is in line with the constitution in that regard.
Chair, can I come back?
Yes, sure.
Chair, it's a huge commitment by this council, and I can understand why some parts of it perhaps should have been redacted and taken out of it if there is a live tender. But I still think that it's something that really ought to get into the public domain. On the debate should be in the public domain. I'm still not quite sure, because very often we commit to things like future high streets and all the other things, and they're all in open session, even though later on there are tenders that go ahead. So for me, the report should have been constructed to be in part A, because I think there is, a lot of public interest. It's our biggest service, recycling and waste, and I think, it would have been wise if it could have been in part A. That's just what it's.
At the end of the day, when we get to that point of the agenda, members will be asked to vote as to whether to go to part B or part A. As officers, we recommend it be done within part B because of the issues that Simon just outlined, but it will be for members to take the decision on. Perhaps we'll think about whether there is any way of dealing with elements of it in part A, but it's quite difficult without discussing the financial. But the principles of the work perhaps can be discussed in part A, but the part B would have to be dealt with, or the financials would have to be dealt with under part B.
Councillor Lever, Steve.
Thank you. It's actually not about this point, but about being able to hear people. And I just wonder, in this huge space, if when people speak, they could maybe throw their voices a bit more to make it a bit easier to hear.
Yeah.
I'm struggling a bit.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, part A. Item 10, my favourite bit, giving money away. Chair's Charity Board. Tonight I've got 2 cheques to present. Thank you. Got the Royal Devon Hospital Charity Burn Centre, which is for Kate.
Thank you very much.
And the North Devon Hospice one, which I can show you, is for Lisa. Thank you. So, yeah, did either of you want to say anything at all?
We just want to say a massive thank you for your ongoing support, and actually you've done so much for the charity and the Fern Centre, and I think Louise would have loved to have come today but she couldn't. But yeah, massive thank you, because you're raising awareness for our charity and supporting us continuously. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, I echo that as well. Obviously, the North Devon Hospice looks after over 3,000 patients every single year, so it's incredible donations like this and the support of everybody in the team that helps us care for those families when they need it the most. So thank you so much. We can't thank you enough.
It's been done outside because of the thing, so we've got about 2 or 3 minutes. I need to put aside then. Shall I take
That's a miss. Will, on the account.
Thank you, councillors, for your patience. Right, item 11, report of the leader of the council, pages 27 to 28. Councillor Roon.
Thank you very much. The report is what it is, members. One topic of interest really is the 24,000 trees that are being planted down at Your Valley Woodland. And it was so nice when we actually launched that project, when we attended to launch that project. We had over sort of 300 community members get involved with that project. And it's been really good to enhance the area's beauty and biodiversity. So I was in Ilfracombe earlier this afternoon at the opening of the new playground and spoke to Andrew Moulton, who really put a lot of effort into this, getting the community groups together. And it's been phenomenal with the amount of school children, as you can see in the report, 920 school children attending to plant trees. And it's going to be, this is a real asset to the council that we've been able to do that project. And I know officers spent a lot of time in getting that grant together so we could do the project. Very disappointed about the Ilfracombe scheme. You know, you can bring all the ministers you like to North Devon, but nothing seems to ever come of it. And really, I know that officers have put in a lot of time into this. You know, there's some really good community groups, you know, like One Ilfracombe, who are really well positioned in knowing what the stats are of Ilfracombe. You know, the High Street area of Ilfracombe is one of the most deprived areas in the region, and it's within the 10% most deprived nationally. And the way that the government allocates the money, it gets councils to bid against each other, and therefore when they're looking at the stats, the rest of North Devon covers up the bits that we really want to improve. And really we need to go more of an allocation system where money is allocated actually on the needs and the numbers, because Ilfracombe needs some major investment. And you know, it's 17.6% of houses within the area are classed as in fuel poverty, and I think it's a real shame really. Ilfracombe is absolutely a vibrant place. It's lovely. Been there this afternoon, seeing the school children in the new sort of play park that you opened, Chair, today. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was talking to some of the residents there, and they were saying it was great. You know, Councillor Cab was there, William was there. Absolutely a lovely event it was. But it just goes to show that we need to keep on
badgering away because Ilfracombe does need the investment, and a lot of officer time went into that. And £24 million into Ilfracombe would have seen a lot more benefits than £424 million into Canary Wharf. You know, absolutely, where does the money need to go? It needs to be invested in Ilfracombe, and we could have done some really quick wins. You know, we could have took on better housing conditions, took over some HMOs, made all that a lot better for people of Ilfracombe. So I am quite disappointed with it, because I'm not, forget politics apart, I'm disappointed with it because in this area we could have really made a real big difference. And that's even acknowledged by Devon County, who have put Ilfracombe as one of its priorities. You know, it's got a population of about 11,000, about 5,000 households in Ilfracombe. And just that small percentage, if we could have focused on that area, it would have lifted that area right up. So I am disappointed that the Levelling Up Minister didn't want to support our scheme, even after visiting the area. Showed in his response that he could not support the exceptional case that we put forward through for Ilfracombe. That's it, members. The rest is in the report.
Thanks, Craig.
Chairman, I would like to be a bit selfish and talk about levelling up monies and sort of say I'm a bit disappointed. We had a bid in our community to reopen our pub as a community hub. And I must say, I thought it was a pretty good bid, but we lost it. So looking at around North Devon, I think the only bid I think that came through that I noticed was for the toilets in Linton. So, you know, for me, that's not a priority for, you know, government money, but there. Good luck to Linton. What I wanted to say is that this issue of Ilfracombe, I don't know where we go next, but I was wondering, I see we got a really light agenda at the next strategy meeting. Could we actually close the formal business and actually have a bit of a brainstorm to think what we can do, what our next step should be? So I think unless we grasp that straight away now, it'll get lost. We'll be into the summer, then there'll be a general election. I think we've got to keep the pressure up. So I would hope that the leader would agree that we could put that as a priority, not as an issue, not as an item on the actual agenda, but to stay there informally afterwards so we can agree cross-party what our next step should be.
Thank you. Councillor Crabb.
Thank you, Chair. I'll pick what it is. I support that idea, Malcolm. That's very good. But I mentioned this a while ago in one of the meetings in the crematorium, and I think it was perhaps misunderstood. And certainly Councillor Roon came back to me and commented the fact that, you know, if I'd have waited to the next agenda item, then we were going to get 6.5 million. So don't worry. But what I said then, and I'm not making a political point, I'm just trying to get councillors just have a little think, is the fact that this council has chosen to go to the bank and borrow 12 million and buy Green Lanes. It's chosen to go to the bank, get 12 million, build a new leisure centre. It's chosen to go to the bank, get 6.5 million, get 6.5 million pound of the government and rejuvenate Butchers Road. All these things are totally within the councillors here. These are things that you have chosen to do. These are nice things, well done. But Ilfracombe, every project in Ilfracombe, with the exception of a few minor things, fishermen stores and whatever, but the bulk of things in that, consultations, you name consultation, I can literally draft proof your houses with the consultations that Ilfracombe's had. What we haven't got is a single bag of cement. And the point I'm making is that everything that you're talking about is what you said about the time. You're right, you know, 6.5 million was applied for at the time, but it was all, we're applying for stuff, we're applying for stuff, we're applying for stuff. I've had meetings with Malcolm 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. We looked at assets at the town that the district council had. What could we do with them? Could we develop them? Could we make money with them? That's the kind of level I think we've got to go to now. We've got to do things that's within our gift and not rely on keep applying for this and keep applying for that. That's the point I'm making. It's not political. I'm just saying we've got to actually take control ourselves, I think.
Sorry, did you want to come back?
Yeah, I was just going to say the difference is, Paul, that when
can you use councillors' names?
Councillor, is the difference is that when we apply for funding from different funds, it's different funds that the government set that you can apply for, which you are on SNR, and you know that with some of the allocation done for those particular bids, if you like. What I'm saying about Ilfracombe, we've got an exceptional case forward, which was supported cross-party, and I'm just saying that a lot of officer time was spent on that, and I'm disappointed that, you know, £24 million for where you live in your area would have made a big, massive difference, and that would have been across all North Devon, because I go to Ilfracombe, I visit Ilfracombe. You know, I work in the NHS and we see patients from Ilfracombe. I'm just saying it would have made a huge difference. And I know that, Paul, Councillor Crabb, that you agree, because, you know, you've put a lot of effort and time into One Ilfracombe, which is one of those community groups that have really put a lot of effort into knowing what the population needs within Ilfracombe. So I know that you agree with me on that sort of line. But I'm just saying is that this exceptional funding, you know, we put a lot of time in it because we were led to believe in one instance that the minister comes to visit, and if a minister comes to visit, we think actually we've got really good interest here, or we led on the political scene that the minister is coming, so therefore there's a particular interest. However, we saw nothing, and you know, the minister visited and we got nothing, not even a that we might even be able to get 8 million of this or 4 million of that, but it's all the council's restrained for what it can apply for by different funding bids, which come up, which you know as well as I do, is you've got to do that. So I'm saying, wouldn't it be better that we went on an allocation system rather than a bidding system, which makes it a lot fairer?
Just to come back on what Councillor Crabb was talking about, the projects referred to, in inside Green Lanes, for instance, which is a little bit different. But the projects referred to, Butchers Row, Leisure Centre, they were all reliant on external funding from government, exactly the same way that the Water Sports Centre was in Ilfracombe. Green Lanes was different. Green Lanes was our own money, but that was on the basis that the income that would be generated from Green Lanes would pay borrowing costs. What we found with the Ilfracombe bid and the detail that we put in the bid showed that there was a budget gap between what we would have to borrow to actually do what we wanted to do and the income that would be taken from those properties. And that was the gap that we were asking government to fill effectively. A capital injection would have meant we had to borrow less. That would have meant that the business case stacked up. Without that, it's quite difficult to get it to stack up. That was the difference in relation to the Ilfracombe one. And John's just reminded me that there is a piece of work going on at the moment to refresh our asset management strategy and our commercialisation strategy. That will be coming back to members very soon, and that will detail the assets that we've got, the possibilities for how we might use those assets to gain income or for community purposes or whatever it might be. And that will be put in front of members to go through that and review those things. But yeah, it was disappointing about the Ilfracombe bid, but fully support the fact that, you know, we now need to look to see what we can do on our own or with partners. And yes, we can have that debate in the next Strategy and Resources Committee. And what I'd suggest is perhaps we ask Ilfracombe members if they want to come along to it. Don't put off by the fact that they're not sitting on Strategy and Resources. It'll probably be a short meeting on Strategy and Resources, and then we can have a discussion afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of see it. I mean, it's not for me to disagree with Paul on anything. The reason I stuck my hand up right away was when Paul referred to the little old fisherman's stores. And you know, I've been open with him, and I had a very, very enjoyable afternoon and visiting the Water Sports Centre. You know, I was absolutely amazed what a fantastic venue it was, what a beautiful spot. You know, we have staff that put an awful lot of work and effort into that to make sure that happens. So I think back when we were talking about that initial motion, I know you didn't mean it like that, you were just trying to defend Ilfracombe, but you know, we are going after scraps. I mean, this whole levelling up agenda, you know, drives me absolutely nuts. And I ain't going to go repeat what I said last time, but it just effectively is getting one council against another council and all the rest of it. And it is all politics, really. I don't like it. And I say it again, you know, just give us the core funding. We've got elected members across party, we've got brilliant officers that can actually sit down, like you talked about, strategy and resources, and actually decide what's best for North Devon, where to spend the money, rather than trying to fight and take a box in Whitehall or somewhere. But yeah, I just think, you know, don't belittle what we've achieved. I mean, whether it be Butchers Row, Pannier Market, you know, the street marshal schemes, and I'll be forgetting stuff. The leisure centre, the Target Tennis Centre. I think our town and our area, we should be pretty proud of what we've achieved, really. Let's keep it going. But yes, government, give us the core funding, we'll spend it wisely, and if we don't, the public will send us on it.
Thank you. Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Chair. I would just actually really like to thank the leader of the council for his report, which I think is an extremely good report. It highlights the work that this council is doing to support people across the whole of North Devon. And actually what government decides to do is outside our control. And the best we can do is try to fit in with the various different bureaucracies and regimes that are dreamt up in Westminster. Of course, one thing which is happening, will be happening, irrespective, I think, of the consultation responses that the consultation period ended on Sunday, is combined authority. And as we all know, the county council and Torbay were basically going to be the decision makers, and district councils as lower tier authorities. We will have 2 seats at the table, but not full voting rights. But I think where that leaves us is it's all the more important for our leader, Councillor Room, to work very closely with other district council leaders to ensure that when it comes to thinking about allocation of funding that comes through the combined authority, and it's not yet clear where that may take us, but that actually that allocation is done on the basis of need. We have all sorts of stats that show that we have areas in our part of Devon, and as Councillor Room has said many times, there are parts of Ilfracombe where life expectancy is 10 years less than in some parts of Teesbridge, for example. That's absolutely appalling. And if the combined authority, when that takes place, when that happens, if that can't take account of that kind of disparity in the life chances of people in our communities, then actually one really has to wonder what on earth that's all about, apart from political posturing on the part of the Conservative Party. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm grateful to Councillor Pete Lever for his motion earlier, reminding us that we need to be civil. There's 920 children planted 24,000 trees. That's fantastic. They have to live somewhere when they grow up. This is a real shame. As Councillor Caroline Lever says, life expectancy once you go past that Malacot roundabout drops by 10 years. This is a real shame. I have the greatest respect for the officers who put this bid in. It's tragic that it's been turned down. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crabb.
I don't want to say this in the open chair, but I just want to reassure Councillor Bell that one of the reasons that the life expectancy does drop when you drift over the top of Malacot is due to some of the properties in Ilfracombe which are used to accommodate people who have difficulties in life, and sometimes this can bring your average age down a little. So the fact that you come up a Malacot does not necessarily mean that you will clutch your chest and fall over. So it's an important distinction to make.
I very much enjoyed this season too. I fully appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Room.
Chair, I welcome debate, and that my leader's report has received a lot of debate because maybe we asked for a lot of money. However, I'll take Councillor Prouter's comment, which seems to be supported by the group leaders anyway, that we have a informal meeting, including Ilfracombe members to be invited, and anybody else who would like to come along for that reason, because we're all representing North Devon, even though we've got our own little pot of it, if you like, that we debate this after informally at an S&R meeting, because I think while we've got this impetus on Ilfracombe, and we are working as well as Devon County Council declaring interest as the Devon County Councillor. However, I'm just saying it is a big focus. So I wouldn't want this to go by the wayside. I think we need to focus on it, and so we can make real change in parts of North Devon, which in this case is Ilfracombe, because we have got the stats behind it, we have got the evidence, and it's not pie in the sky. It's happening here. So please, can we from my report, could we recommend that we put this on the informal part after an S&R meeting, Chair, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item 12. Questions by members. Questions to the leader or the chair of the committee submitted under part 4, council procedure rules and paragraph 10.4 of the Constitution. These none has been received. Item 13, statutory pay policy 2024, pages 29 to 34. John, over to you.
Chair, given the fact that my post is referred to, I'm going to.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Item 13 is the Council statutory pay policy. This is a policy that's brought to you every year for adoption. The recommendations are set out in 2.1, and the pay policy statement for chief officers is set out in Appendix A, which starts on page 33. In the context of managing scarce public resources, the council needs the remuneration at all levels within the council needs to be adequate to secure and retain high quality employees, but at the same time needs to avoid being unnecessarily generous or otherwise excessive. Pay policy statement in front of you applies specifically to chief officers, a term that includes both statutory and non-statutory chief officers, and addresses the legal requirements set out how the policy for the agreement of chief officer remuneration differs to that of other council employees. So the pay policy statement in front of you sets out in relation to the head of paid service, which is the chief executive, the director of resources and deputy chief executive, posts of head of service, including section 151 responsibilities and monitoring officer responsibilities. The Hudson report that was outlined a number of years ago outlined the most appropriate metric for pay dispersion is the multiple of the chief executive salary to average earnings. Tracking that multiple will ensure that public sector organisations are accountable for the relationship between their pay of their executives and the wider workforce. The pay remuneration is set out in Annex A, which starts on page 37, and the salaries below head of paid service are subject to North Devon Council's job evaluation scheme. This is an evaluation scheme that's a systematic process that provides an objective basis for determining a rational pay structure. In determining the remuneration packages for appointments to chief officers, such as the head of paid service, i.e. the chief executive, the governance committee will take independent pay advice from South West Regional Services or similar. The governance committee will then make recommendations which will be subject to the approval of full council. The governance committee may also recommend to full council changes to the remuneration packages following any review, and any changes to those remuneration packages will be subject to your approval here at full council. Salary increases for all staff in relation to cost of living will be made in line with National Joint Council, otherwise known as NJC, recommendations. Through the policy in front of you, the reference is to pay multiples of the head of paid service, i.e. the chief executive, and they'll be monitored annually. So you'll see in the body of the report information in relation to the pay multiple of the chief executive salary to that of the lowest paid employee and also the average salary within the council. Because the specific structure within the council, excuse me, the head of paid service, i.e. the chief executive, manages a number of functions, and so the salary levels of only the head of paid service and the heads of service are included in the pay policy statement as an example. The senior solicitor is also included as he, as the monitoring officer, has that statutory position. Set out in the body of your report, starting in section 4.3, we've outlined the pay multiples of the head of paid service, i.e. the chief executive, and that has continued, and for 2024 is now 3.7. So the pay multiple of the head of paid service compared to the lowest paid salary is 3.7. Sorry, to the average salary is 3.7, and that has reduced. From 2023 it was 3.91, and in 2022 it was 4.08. So the last couple of years that pay multiple has reduced. Pay multiple to the lowest paid employee is also further reduced. For 2024 it's now 4.45, and in 2023 it was 4.78 and just over 5 in 2022. It's important to set out to you how the pay multiple to the lowest paid employee compares to those of neighbouring district councils, and the table in 4.4 sets that out for you. And as you can see, the pay multiple of 4.45 is the lowest of the district councils in Devon, with the highest being 6.24. In addition to that comparison, published data from the Taxpayers Alliance enables a further comparison nationally as to how the remuneration of senior posts within local councils The data within the published data from Taxpayers Alliance also shows the post of head of paid service for North Devon Council was one of the lowest paid chief executives in the country. A separate pay analysis carried out by the Local Government Association in 2023 has also highlighted comparisons against comparative councils throughout the country, and that is shown on page 30. Again, that has concluded that the lowest salary job for all the relative super councils is awarded to the Chief Executive of North Devon Council. Similarly, in terms of neighbouring councils, as shown in the table earlier on 4.4, that again has concluded that the Chief Executive salary is the lowest of comparable neighbouring authorities. The remuneration of the head of paid service was last reviewed in 2019, over 5 years ago, and the remuneration of the other posts, chief officers and heads of service, was reviewed more recently in 2021 when the restructural changes were brought about. The reason I flag up those comparables is because the pay policy that you've approved previously and is also set out in this document this evening says in section 3.3 that salary levels will be consistent with similar organisations which aim to pay according to median or average salaries. And based on the comparison in the report, this policy wording is inconsistent to the current position due to the pay multiple being the lowest of neighbouring authorities and comparable councils in the country. Therefore, members, the recommendation in your report is to approve the appendix and the pay policy in front of you. However, to also understand, obviously, by agreeing to that policy that you're setting out, is that you're agreeing that pay will be consistent with similar organisations in order to pay according to those median salaries. So at the moment, there's an inconsistency between the pay policy and what's actually happening. So as members, obviously, it's for you to consider whether you want to be consistent in terms of that pay policy staying as it is. If you do, then you may want to refer that to an area such as governance committee to take a look at that pay comparables and have some independent work carried out, such as the Local Government Association. Or if you want to keep the salary levels as they are for the chief officer, then obviously you might be minded to amend the policy in 3.3 to remove that sentence around salary levels being consistent with similar organisations on average salaries. So, Chair, I'll leave the analysis there. I know the leader wants to say a couple of words before we open up the question. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you, Deputy Chief Exec. Referring to the title. I feel uncomfortable setting the salary, and North Devon salary compared, you've all read the report, it's a spot salary, so there's no room for progression. Most salaries, when you're talking about chief officers, will have a pay scale that actually, you know, they're meeting all the criteria, then you get a little bit more. And I would like to say, I would like to put the amendment to your recommendation, and this is what it is, members, because I think that we need independent advice here. Just like when councillors have their members' allowances looked at, we always refer to the independent body, and we refer to them because I don't feel comfortable setting our own allowances and our own salaries, and I don't think we should do the same to the officers when there's perfectly good bodies who set a motion in place. So I would say that we agree the recommendation to approve the pay policy, but in order to address the points made in the report about the inconsistencies, which with the adopted policy, Governance Committee is tasked with conducting a review of the Chief Officer post salary levels, including the obtaining of independent advice and evidence from the LGA, the Local Government Association, and formulating recommendations, which then will come back to this full council for us to approve. I think that it's under the governance remit, and I think we should put it to an outside body to review it. That's my recommendation, members.
I second that, if that's sufficient. Thank you.
Well, I would second it, Chair. Sorry, I would second that. Yeah, I'll say no more because it was going to go.
Thank you. So we've had the recommendation to go to governance, and unless anyone else wants to speak, I've had a move, I've had a seconder, all in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions?
Thank you, members. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
I will get the chief executive back in just.
It will of course be looked at by government, you're absolutely right, but I mean, where is the direction of travel? What's your gut feel on this? And are you thinking that, do you think that there is someone standing near this room that is hoping that a certain number becomes approximately 5.5? Is that the ambition or something like that? Or is this like a staged process?
There's no ambition set out in the that's why obviously it's not an officer decision. It's not obviously up to members to make that decision, but only once you've taken that independent advice from a body such as the Local Government Association. Local Government Association would obviously then do a report that would go through to Governance Committee to review and then make recommendations through to yourselves as full council. But there's no ambition as to where that goes. It's obviously to take that independent advice from the Local Government Association.
Right, it has been moved, it has been approved, it has been voted on. There's no more discussion on it. Go to governance. End of. Thank you. Item 14.
It's the last day.
That's right.
Alan, you got lots of follow here.
Sorry, Ken, I forgot to put you out there. Item 14, a progress update on the UK Shared Prosperity Funds Programme, report by Case Manager, Economic Development and Regeneration, Dominique to report. Thank you.
Evening, councillors. Just come back before you this evening to give an update on. I'm trying to. Do let me know if I drift back to a lower tone, but to give you an update on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Back in July 2022, this council approved the investment plan that we submitted to government, which then released a process of monies coming to North Devon District Council. We were allocated 1.2 million under the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. We were then given a further 1 million under the Rural Top-Up Programme, which is called the Rural England Prosperity Fund. So we've had those two pots of money allocated to us. The agreement with government was signed in January 2023, so it was a little bit of a lengthy process from submission of the plan to get the agreement and to start releasing money. So whilst it was a 3-year investment plan, that first year was effectively the last 2 months of that first year. So government acknowledged that and allowed us to roll the full amount over. So that was offered to all councils in England. So we didn't lose any of that first year allocation, which a lot of us would have struggled to be able to spend in 2 months' time. So we're coming to the end of the first full year of project delivery. And a lot of work has gone into sort of setting up projects, working with partners to identify where allocations of money can be spent. But in the body of the report that you have in front of you, there is a table set out sort of in 4.6, which shows you the different allocations and the projects and their status. So as part of the investment plan, we were basically given a menu of different activities and interventions from government, 3 separate headings. One was around communities in place, one was around supporting local business, and one was around people and skills. So we submitted different sort of activities under each of those 3 headings. You can see in the table just above 4.6 the allocations and the spends that we had. The third priority, the people and skills allocation, only comes in this next financial year. So the 350,000 we had for people and skills can start to be spent from April. So we haven't had access to spend that money as yet. I think worth just, probably, I'm not going to go through all the projects, you'll be pleased to hear, but it's probably worth profiling a few of them that have been up and running and delivering and spending through this year. So the capital allocation that we received, we've put towards a town enhancement scheme, and that is open to town centres throughout the district to pull down some money to enhance the shop front, to look at sort of new windows, painting, decoration, basically to tidy up the frontages of those sort of properties that front onto town centres and high streets. We've been told regularly by our sort of residents and businesses that that is one thing that they feel would make an improvement if you kind of raise the visual amenities within our town centres through that appearance. So property owners are putting in match funding to that, so they have to match what we give in a grant. So we are leveraging in some private sector funding to boost that pot up. So we've been quite successful so far. We've had application funding rounds, which we've tried to make as simple as possible with the application form. We have to have some due diligence and financial protections in place. So we do have to ask for a certain level of information, but so far that's been quite well received, and we will continue to run that programme through into the next financial year. So we'll be promoting the fact that that's going to be available still. We have also, under that capital allocation, done larger sort of cooperative enhancements. So we've been looking at sort of benches, new bins, bollards. So we've actually had a collection of sort of larger projects where we're kind of doing sort of new bins, primarily around sort of town centre in Barnstable, but along the coastal strip as well, where we've worked with our waste and recycling colleagues to identify the worst sort of bins, those that really needed sort of upgrading. And we're upgrading those en masse. We are also looking at sort of benches and planters, particular scheme sort of hopefully in Ilfracombe coming forward, where we can just make that sort of town centre setting a nicer place for people to sort of dwell and visit. So that will continue through the forthcoming financial year. I think moving into sort of more the revenue spend, so that's the capital allocations going for the SPF. A couple of highlights from this year's spend from the revenue. We've actually worked with North Devon Voluntary Services to support the employment of a Volunteer Connect post within the NDVS. And that is really to look at boosting North Devon's activity to attract volunteers and then match them with activity that organisations are looking for across the district. They are also feeding that through a Devon-wide portal called Devon Connect, which we're trying to boost the North Devon presence on that. So the member of staff that the NDVS have employed has been doing a great job in this first year in recruiting new volunteers and matching them with placements. So I think the volunteer workforce is one that we really need to sort of celebrate and encourage more of. And it can often be that first step into kind of more permanent paid employment. It can help people if they're sort of struggling with mainstream kind of society. So I think we're really pleased to be investing in that with the support of North Devon Voluntary Services. Moving through some of the sector focused work we're doing. We've got a package of activities around sort of tourism and our visitor economy. So we're working with the Biosphere Foundation on a nature tourism project where we're working with various tourism industry bodies to look at how they can encourage a more sustainable tourism sector within North Devon. So looking at how they manage their premises or their activities and attractions, and looking at ways in which we can encourage sustainable transport when visitors come to those destinations. So Biosphere is running that project for us at the moment. We've also given some support to the really critical local visit network. So we've got some wonderful tourism marketing bodies. They do it voluntarily, but they promote things like Visit Linton Lynmouth, Visit Carmarthen, Visit Ilfracombe. We've supported those visits with a grant to improve the materials they have on their website. So do some more pictures, perhaps do some drone footage to really promote all that we have here in North Devon to the visitor economy. Sort of going beyond just what you normally see with the Visit Devon website, which is lovely, but it's normally focused on the beaches. We have a lot more to offer than that in our rural communities and in our town centres to the visitor economy. So with those visit networks, we're actually enhancing the offer that we're portraying to visitors to come to North Devon. I think one of the final ones I will profile is the work that we're doing with our own business support company, North Devon Plus. They've taken on a large proportion of the business support delivery for us through the SPF, and they're doing some great work with the Business Boost, which is basically opening up a free business support program to any business who was looking to grow, expand, enter new marketplaces, needs a little bit of help in terms of their marketing. So we've got a great sign up. Our business support advisor is very busy. I can't even get to see him until May. So we're really pleased with the take up that the business community have had sort of from that programme. There's a small micro grant that goes alongside that. So if the business advisor identifies a need within a business, we can give a small grant to help them move forward on that progression journey that they've identified. So we're hoping that from that, some outputs will be increased productivity, streamlining of business process, and hopefully creating new employment opportunities within our economy here in North Devon. Touching on the rural top-up scheme, again, North Devon Plus are very heavily involved in delivering for us a rural grant scheme. So you may, some of you, be more aware of a previous leader programme that we had in North Devon and Torridge. It was a brilliant sort of rural development grant, formerly from a European source. We've managed to sort of bring in that, a replication of that through the Rural England Prosperity Fund. So North Devon Plus are busy receiving applications under various strands around net zero in businesses and raising productivity, tourism and the visitor economy, agriculture and looking at diversification, and then the general sort of micro enterprise support. So they are the strands that we were given for that Rural England Prosperity Fund. We've received some really good applications from across the district, and those grants are paid retrospectively. So we are just starting to pay out on some of those projects that are delivering and coming to a conclusion now. So we'll have much more to report on at the end of the next financial year on that. We're also doing a couple of direct sort of interventions with that Rural England Prosperity Fund into Ilfracombe. So brilliant to see the play equipment open today. A little further on from that on the seafront, we're going to have a new toilet and a shelter put in. And we're also doing a further enhancement to the water sports centre, where we're opening up the top of the lime kiln, which will provide an additional sort of seating area that the cafe can use, but also that the general public can come and sit there. It's a beautiful view if you want to sit there and contemplate life for a while. So I think there's a huge range of activity that we've got with this money. It's been a real joy to sort of be able to project manage it, because we don't often have this dedicated funding at the district level to manage. I think one of the benefits we've seen is that all of the money has gone out to the community or the businesses. We haven't top sliced any of that, the sort of a management fee or whatever. So I think we've really sort of managed to promote most of that 1.2 million and the 1 million rural out to the businesses and communities where it's meant to go. So I think that's probably all in my summary. So I'll just revert back to the recommendations. Within the body of the report, you will see the list of projects, and also alongside that, a kind of a communication plan, if you like, where we're looking to start running out sort of some really good sort of communication and publicity and case studies around what we've done with the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So they will start imminently to really promote what we've done in the first year, and we'll continue that with the delivery through this final year, starting from April. Thank you.
Councillor Morden.
Thank you. Well, I'm absolutely, well, I'm not sure how I can put this. I think this is a fantastic report and very, very exciting. And I would like to thank Dominique and all those involved in this for all the hard work that they're putting in on this. This is really fantastic for our council and the work that we do in the community. And we need to make sure that the public actually know of the hard work that's going on behind all of this, and how what we're doing to enhance North Devon. It's really very, very encouraging to get a report like this. And I'd just like to say thank you very much, Dominique, for all the work you're doing and all the people that are supporting you.
Thank you, Dominique. I'd like to echo Warden's sentiments. I just wondered, do we have an update on the bus station? I noticed it's mentioned in the report.
Yeah.
Well, we were going to open it by Easter, and it's Maundy Thursday tomorrow, so I just wondered what's the progress.
Sorry, councillors, please be quiet.
I don't know if I don't have my property manager here. I know there is an update, but
I can provide an update. The initial thoughts were that we would get it over by Easter. And a scheme had been drawn up that would have provided for that. A nice simple scheme to provide the toilets within the building. But when we looked at it and when we talked to Weber's design team and other people involved, Weber's are actively marketing the cafe opportunity. It was felt that a slightly different scheme would be better and more marketable, and would mean that the building was available to be used by the town council in future years as well, if that came to fruition. And so a new scheme's drawn up. It's out for tender at the moment, waiting for prices to come back from contractors. Weber's are still marketing the cafe opportunity, and we've got a couple of people interested in that. But the scheme will provide a more permanent toilet facility within the building, but it won't be open by Easter. We can get the fresh timescale through to you, but works are still ongoing. A toilet will be provided in there alongside a refreshed cafe facility as well. It'll be a much better facility than the one originally planned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to add my thanks as well to the effort that has gone in from you and the team, especially for the work that's gone on with IRB. Obviously, you know, my sort of special subject, as it were. It sounded a little bit to me like Councillor Warden was almost looking to propose recommendations 2.1 and 2.2. If he does, I'm minded to perhaps second them.
Thank you. Councillor Milton.
Thank you. Echo Councillor Warden's comments there. It's incredibly challenging when you get short-term project funding like this and you've got to find those opportunities to allocate. Just a question I have there, looking at the rural prosperity, the rural investment one there, through North Devon Plus, quite a substantial sum of money there. If it's likely to be, our short report says 15 projects approved, and it's a 2-year term, and they approve the maximum amount possible under each of them, that doesn't get halfway to spending the money. Are you confident we're going to get to be able to allocate that money in the time? And what kind of media activity are we doing to ensure that people are aware of it, to ensure that money's spent? It would be an awful shame not to spend it.
it would, and certainly working with the North Devon Plus team, who have got a lot of experience in kind of moving this money out to the communities where it needs to be. They are doing a lot of promotion, and it's helpful that they've got those contacts through their previous leader programs. So they are doing direct mail outs. And I think we took some time after April to get the programme up and running and get all the forms in place and the background sort of processes in place. I think once we opened it, we had a reasonable kind of amount of applications in, and we are going to boost that. So we are confident as a team that that money is going to go out to the businesses as planned. I think the timetable for delivery has slipped slightly just because of that slightly later start. But yeah, I mean, it's a very fair question because I think it's an uphill struggle, but we're not going to hand any of that money back. I'll be here next year to confirm that's happened.
Thank you. Actually, Councillor Milton's actually re-asked more or less the question I was going to ask. That 1.09 billion that came from the Rural England Prosperity Fund, it says that goes to the Future Farming Programme. Now, you mentioned obviously the North Devon Plus project. Is that all the projects you're doing on farming? Because it is a very important industry to North Devon.
It is, and there are other funds. So we have to be careful, but we don't actually provide funding through this rural top up that kind of would actually be already funded under all the other DEFRA programs. So the kind of North Devon Plus team are aware of those other funding programs with the farming community and redirect them to those if it's more appropriate. The project that they come forward with comes under one of the other DEFRA schemes. We're also working very closely with the Biosphere Foundation. They are doing quite a lot of work with the farming community to make sure that we sort of capture anyone who's got sort of aspirations around diversification. So I think, yes, we are sort of working closely through our networks with the farming community. So we are got to be
careful that we're not funding things that could come from other mainstream DEFRA sources for farming those. So we have been given some quite close parameters as to what we can fund through this particular scheme.
Can I just extend my thanks for the Heritage Skills Day that was run at Arlington Court, which I attended. Absolutely superb. There was talk of a forum afterwards, and I'm not sure whether that's stumbled or whether that's going to continue. I know Colette Ball had great aspirations of creating a hub where people could learn these skills, which was plastering, dead work, pitch laying, and the rest. That would be wonderful if that can continue. Do you have an update on that?
I do. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to the most recent. There has been a meeting, and I do apologise if you hadn't had a follow-up contact from that. So I think my colleague who's working alongside Colette in my team, Claire, they pulled together a group of the sort of workshop leaders that were present at the Arlington, who have got those lead skills and woodworking and carpentry skills. They are very keen to take this forward. So I think the next step will be to look at creating a set of sort of what the popular phrase at the moment, the boot camps. So they're short, quick kind of skills training in these bespoke skills. So we are working with Petroc on that also. So that's one strand that we are going to bring forward this year. And we're also looking at creating an online sort of network. So those that have the skills can log in and be present. Those that need those skills can log in and see those services that are available. And we can also try and encourage new entrants into those bespoke specialist heritage skills. We're working closely with the Petroc Faculty of Construction sort of to see if they could divert some of their mainstream bricklayers into some of these heritage sort of skills. So it's definitely moving forward, and we'll make sure that we keep you on the mailing list for that future.
Can I just say, I think that's really important because these budgeting and these rare trades are falling by the wayside, and it's an opportunity if you can get those skills for employment in that sector. And people are moving to desk jobs and inside offices. Lots of people aren't suited to that, and there's a real opportunity, and that's something that we should embrace. I'm glad we're on the way to continuing that work.
I think there's an important other aspect which Colette would echo if she were here tonight, that it will save the council a lot of money on enforcement when a plastic window goes in that shouldn't be a plastic window. So I think she would echo that there are other benefits as well to us running this project. So
Thanks.
Chair, actually, I was at the meeting last week when some of the people that Kevin Davis is talking about were pulled together, and it was a really interesting couple of hours. But you know, it was only a small steering group, but it was interesting to listen to Paul Knox, the MD of Pearson, saying how all those trades that you were talking about, like the joiner that can mend a sash window, as well as line plasterers and all those skills, people that are doing apprenticeships at the moment don't learn them. So we have got to follow up on that. But what I was going to say in a broader thing, later on, I've done a very brief report on North Devon Plus, but I just wanted to emphasise how important they are, because without that organisation and our partnership with them, we wouldn't be able to deliver any of these things. It would be a huge resource pull on our existing internal staff. Can I echo what other people said, Dominique? You're doing a fantastic job, and I can claim no credit really for it as the portfolio holder. But it's been a joy to be involved with North Devon Plus ever since its inception, and I'm really glad that people's attempts to kill it over the years weren't successful, because without it we wouldn't have been able to deliver this in partnership with our team. But thank you very much.
Right, we've had a mover, we've had a seconder. All in favour? Anyone against? Any abstention? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 15, Local Authority Housing Fund Round 3. Councillor Bell to introduce Nina Lake, Head of PMO and Environmental Health and Housing, will be present to respond to any questions raised. Thank you. Councillor Bell. Yeah, sure.
Please, let's lean on. Let's have a look.
Evening. Could I just, before I start, make one small correction? There's a little bit of a typo on 4.8 of the report, line 1. The figure 176,000 should be 134,200. Simple typo error. Just move on. This is to discuss a memorandum of understanding and expression of interest. We're not making any firm decisions regarding this tonight, simply that these letters need to be submitted tomorrow. Once we've indicated our willingness, we'll then be further details will be coming back for our discussion later down the line. This is a third round funding coming down from the government. We've already had over £1 million from the first round, which enabled us to buy 9 houses for use in temporary accommodation. We went into round 2, which was brought in around last July. We withdrew from that because, unfortunately, we found that it wasn't actually coming through as what we wanted it to be, so we had to pull out, which was unfortunate. This is round 3, which is launched later in the year. It's £602,000 probably. Obviously, these numbers will change as time goes on slightly, and it is being offered. This figure is part of a £400 million offer being offered to 203 local authorities who are seen as having some sort of need. Is the scale of the crisis we face nationally, not just locally at the moment. The proposal is to support local authorities to purchase temporary accommodation in order largely to do as North Devon has done brilliantly, to reduce our reliance on bed and breakfast accommodation, which is very, very high. Our bed and breakfast accommodation comes in at around somewhere between 9 and 15 units, I think, depending on the need each night. And of course, it is costing us thousands and thousands of pounds. We need having this temporary accommodation simply gives us more control of our money, and it becomes an asset that we have to look after. So, as you can see, the proposal is to purchase. The proposal, if we take it up, is to put this money towards purchasing 2 units of temporary accommodation, which will be owned by North Devon Council and be used for our own people needing temporary accommodation, and it will be 2 units to support the families of the Afghan soldiers and interpreters who have been forced to flee their own country and come to live in the UK because they face persecution, execution and torture in their own country. We know that this has been going on, but I would remind people before they make comment here that this is only to discuss the memorandum of understanding and the expression of interest. We don't need to go into the work being done by anyone else on this. There will if we take this £602,000, it will be delivered over 2 years, as you can see in 4.6. 4.7 talks about the amount of money, the average amount of money per property in North Devon as being £305,000. We will be matching that. The sums again will be worked out down the line, but we will have significant amount towards this property. 4.8, as I've said, has that small change in it, but it will be attracting about £134,200 per dwelling for us to put towards these new homes. We have an opportunity if we use existing, if we use new build properties, that value may go up by 10%, so increase further. There's also an additional £21,000 per property for other costs to put in, and we'll receive £4,375 in administration costs. I think Nina has put together an excellent report, and she understands it even better than I do. If there's any questions, at least Nina will recommend asking.
Any questions? Councillor Room.
I'll move the recommendations, and members, why this has come to full council in the first place is because as set out in the report, a decision has to be made by tomorrow at 5 p.m. And there was no Strategy and Resources Committee scheduled, and this would come in front of. So we're bringing it to full council for the members to look at. I mean, I'm happy to approve those 3 recommendations as set out in the report and we've all had a chance to read it, and Councillor Bell has explained that.
Just to declare an interest in this item, I tried to at the beginning. Sorry, I apologize. Can you tell me what your interest is, please, Councillor Wilson? Sorry, non-registrable interest, just I'm where the accommodation. Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Second.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, then. We've got a second, but all in favour. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you.
16, outside bodies, report by appointees, pages 57 to 88. Report by head of governance. Is any other councillors got any? Councillor Davies. Sorry, I do apologise, Councillor Knight. I do apologise. I was looking at.
Yes, Chair, it's just a point of slight inaccuracy. I believe that on page 59, I'm cited as not delivering the report. However, it's unfortunate that actually the position should be asked yourself, as did the member for waste and recycling. It goes hand in hand.
Sorry, which one was that?
Page 59.
Yeah. Oh, I see that in there. I actually did do a report, but I did it for the lead members. I took it to the lead group, and because I saw your name there, I didn't actually include it in this one. I have done a report which I can take.
But it should be your name on.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. But I can, if anyone wants a report, I can send it out. It's not a problem. Councillor Orange.
Just to say that I did submit a report, it just wasn't. So it will be.
For the first time in my whole career, I did them on time.
Sorry, Councillor Khan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I think Councillor Orange just said what I was going to say. Obviously, a couple of the reports, I know mine, for one, came through as a supplement. Will it get sort of put on there that it was received? Lovely.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, I put mine as a supplement as well, and they will be the same. Councillor Room.
Thank you, Chair. Members, Devon District Forum is made up of Devon leaders and chief execs. The last year has been spent purely on discussing the devolution and what it means for districts. So, and you've had it through multiple times through other reports. So basically, what's been going off over the last year is Devon devolution deal, talking it through and what it means for districts. And I'm really pleased to report that we have a verbal report from the man who's chairing One Ilfracombe, Councillor Paul Campbell, just going to give us an update on what One Ilfracombe's been up to over the last 12 months. Thank you, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And to welcome you all to the building, I can tell you now I've had literally seconds to prepare this report.
You went longer. You should have written it.
Okay, so One Ilfracombe, which I've been asked to report on, is it's a strange body. It's a commercial arm of it's a commercial cranker. So you've got it's set up as a company. However, its membership, its board members are all members of something, such as the fire service, district council, Devon County Council, health service. There's about 3 different types of health service, but they're all on their primary care network and so forth. So at the moment, it's rather focused on health. The reason it's focused on health is the fact that most of the funding and most of the work that's contracted to it comes through the various health budgets. So its biggest work at the moment it's putting in a lot of work in the primary care network to steer people away from medical solutions. So, I mean, the classic example is someone that goes in, wants, for whatever reason, Prozac or whatever, and ends up being literally prescribed a trip out in a bus. And it sounds trite, but it's not. It's far more involved in that than that. So that's where it's going. There's 6, I believe now, 6 these assistants now working in the primary care network in Ilfracombe. There are other duties undertaken, and there's Ilfracombe Works, and there is the town team which looks after the public realm. And there's a group of people, some of which are statutory, some of which are volunteers, who turn up regularly, once every 6 weeks, and mow my calibre potholes, bless them. But they also identify problems where there are bins missing, where there's issues, get feedback from the public, and it's dealt with fairly swiftly. So, all in all, that's pretty much the summary. But I'll take any questions anyone.
Any other councillor who need to report on their report? Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I've put in a very brief report about Troll, which I don't think anyone really knows what it does. It's a local government association body which deals with parking and transport outside of London. Now, when I put the report in, there wasn't very much that we've done as a district council, which would come under that because a lot of it is county council to do with 20-mile-an-hour zones and camera enforcement and various things like that, which, although we have in North Devon, is part of the county's remit. However, there is a consultation taking place at the moment on car parks, and I will be using knowledge that I have gained from attending control meetings to influence, well not influence, but to add to that consultation.
Thank you. Okay, so we note that. Item 17, minutes of committees. Councillors recommended to note scheduled committee minutes and approve recommendations as listed below. It is recommended that the minutes are all approved and adopted as follows. We've got item A, B, C, and D. Can we take them on block?
Yeah.
Thank you. All in favour? Oh, sorry, councillor Spear. Sorry.
Just say something about my policy development special meeting.
Yeah, sure.
I was in this room on Friday, just a couple of thank yous really, saying I've had a lot of positive feedback from members and public about the meeting. We had over 100 in this room. I'd like to particularly thank the officers for their support. It took a lot of organising. We had 9 or 10 on the panel and pulling it all together. Especially thanks to John Triggs and Kelly Stanley and Peter Jones, who was our lead on water quality, and the rest of the policy development committee, and the members who came and all who helped in the meeting. And we've got a meeting coming up soon, in about 10 days' time, to take all the issues forward from that meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry.
So in that, I moved minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Then. Just can I add the whereas all of the minutes are fascinating equally. So the minutes for the minutes regarding the South West Water meeting are really of public interest. I know that people could find these online if they wanted to, but this is something that perhaps we should be looking at the press office, because it reads really, as somebody that was there, the details that have come up are fascinating, and I think they'll be interested, the members of the public will be interested to see this.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to move these on block.
Yeah, you can take that point.
And we're taking that point on as well. Thank you. So all in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item. Okay. Yes, yes. Can you explain something about part A and B now to do with the next agenda? Next item.
This addresses the point made by Councillor Price earlier in the agenda. We've had a quick discussion when we've been able to do so, and we think we can deal with some of the report in part A. So we will do that now. And then when we get to the bits where we need to take it in part B, financial detail, then we'll ask for a resolution to go into part B at that stage. But there will be opportunity to ask and debate the issues that we can debate in part A before we move into part B. Thank you.
Two of us. Evening members, just to add to what Ken said, just to give a bit of context, when we drafted the report that you've got in front of you this evening, tenders had come in, so we'd seen the headline bids, so we drafted the report to meet the deadline for full council tonight. We then had a tender evaluation meeting with the project team, and that's when you obviously really drill down into the figures and see what you've got. And there were a number of clarification questions that we needed to ask. So we had to go back to the bidders and wait for them to submit their responses. That's gone kind of right down to the wire. So we're talking yesterday and Monday. We were still crunching the numbers. Pleased to say we've got there now, but we obviously haven't had the opportunity to notify the successful and the unsuccessful tenderer. And we are going to be requesting a little bit more money on the variance. The recommendations are the same as in the report, but we do need to ask for an extra 52,000 on top of the variance that we've already requested, which was, I'll read it because it's printed in small print. The 297,574 variation, we're going to add a request for the extra 52 on top of that. That's as much as we can discuss the figures. Paul will just go through what we're doing and explain the rationale behind this project.
Evening, Chair. Evening, councillors. So back in November 2022, we brought a report to full council asking for the approval for remediation works and a building works to take place at Brinsworthy Environment Centre, which was approved. Some of the reasons for those changes, some of them were due to the Environment Agency guidelines, things like the fire suppression system. We need to have one, have a good one that's approved. The drainage didn't meet EA guidelines. If we did have a fire, any water, contaminated water from the fire could escape the site in various ways. So we have to update the drainage to make sure we contain any contaminated water. And where at the moment all the glass we collect is stored outside in concrete walls, that's now got to be inside a building. So that is the summary of the EA requirements. On top of that, we wanted to make some improvements to the site, safety reasons mainly, and efficiency savings. So efficiency would be the new baler. The existing baler can bale up to 2 tonnes an hour, whereas a new baling system can bale up to 12 tonnes an hour, which is a lot different, a lot better, and we can process our own material in a lot less time than we currently do. By rearranging the yard, at the moment our trucks are queuing up to get into the process hall to empty, just because of the layout. It's not very efficient. So by making these changes, it will allow our trucks to unload a lot quicker. One of the changes is to remove all the external vehicles like the waste, trucks or Gregory's, any Arctic lorries that come to pick up our materials. At the moment, having to mix with our own staff, our own vehicles, our forklifts. So it's not the safest environment. So by putting a new weighbridge on the outside of our compound, all the external lorries can just go around the site onto the weighbridge and be loaded by a new loading dock. So they don't have to get anywhere near our pedestrian staff and NDC vehicles. So that should make things a lot safer. And it would also allow contractors to come on site any time of the day, really. At the moment, they're restricted to just mornings, because once our trucks come back at lunchtime, we can't have them. Arctic is being loaded while our own vehicles are waiting to unload. So it make things more efficient for the contractors as well as ourselves. The porter cabin, if anyone's been to the porter cabin recently, you'll see there's a lot of panels on the floor where we've boarded up the holes. It's seen better days than it was second-hand when we first got it. We do need to replace that. So the porter cabin is an additional part of this that has been in the plan from the start. Also, the actual process or all our materials get baled. There's a lot of steels going through the ceiling of the building, which over the 15 years we've been there, covered in cobwebs and dust and dirt, which does cause a fire risk. So part of the works is actually cleaning steels and repainting and repairing anything that needs doing. Okay, so obviously when we came to council in 2022, it was approved that we could put together a plan and do some tenders. And we would get to the stage where we are now, where we've got all the information to allow us to come back to you, ask for the release of funds so we can actually start the building projects and implement these changes that we want to do. So that's where we are. So as Mark alluded to earlier, now that we have all the tenders in and we've gone through all the clarifications, total cost of the project is 3,748,620. So that is an additional 348,620.
Sorry, members, it's just because we are still in part A. I think it's probably best if you just go through the recommendations as they are, with the additional sum. So it's the only one that's changed is recommendation 2.1. That's the one I referred to initially. Otherwise, the other recommendations remain as they are.
No problem. Okay, so moving on to recommendations. Recommendation 1 is that the council vary the capital project by £350,060 and releases these funds for the remedial improvement works. And recommendation number 2 is that the council releases the 2,659,000 from the capital programme, which is what was agreed in the previous council meeting. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Oh yeah, there was one actually. Councillor Bushow.
Just going to say, if there are any questions on the principle of the development and the aspects that Paul's talked about, we can take them part A, and then move into part B to discuss the financial elements. And you have the opportunity to ask further questions at that point. Sorry,
then I don't think we're able to approve this without the questions I want to ask, and you've indicated that I should ask those questions in part B.
Fine.
So I don't think we can really move to without those questions.
No, there's no suggestion that we take the vote now. It was just whether there are any questions about the principles of the scheme that Paul has outlined at this stage. If not, then we can move into part B, get into the detail of the financials. Members can ask any other questions, and then there'll be a vote at the end.
Thank you. May I hold my question?
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Root.
Chair, I move that we go in part B. If there's no more questions from the members.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you. You carry on. Thank you. Want to make it difficult for you, Chair. I'm just wondering, this is going to be 6 times faster, which is fantastic. What are we going to do with the extra 5 times time we've got? Have we got a plan for that?
We are looking at options to see if we can encourage external providers to bring their material to us to be processed.
Councillor.
Yeah, no, I have a problem as well. I've been in. Thank you, Chair. It's probably your other role, really. Is there any what are the implications of the service continuing to this project? Because it's quite a high profile, a very high profile service?
Yeah, the way the project is planned to run is, obviously we can't afford to shut the site for the whole period of the construction. So we've separated it into segments where we can move things around while they work on one particular area, so we can maintain services and collections throughout the project.
Councillor Denton. Sorry, did you want to speak?
I'm fine, that's right.
Councillor Jones.
Are we anticipating an impact on services when we do those moving?
No, not at the moment. We think we've got enough capacity on site to make sure there isn't any effect on the actual services.
Councillor York.
Yeah, I just want to check whether in the future, once obviously all the efficiencies have improved, will this mean we can have that push on getting more residents recycling more and getting that education message out there so that we can actually get that capacity in there?
Yeah, definitely. Once we've got all these changes made, we hope to be in a much better position where we can look at alternative ways to make sure we recycle more and landfill less.
It's also worth saying that the new boiler can do more separation of plastic, the types of plastic, and large bales. So both of those changes mean that we get a better unit price on what we're selling, because the contractors that are buying off us prefer larger bales and prefer the purer plastic. There's less separating for them to do when they get it. So we can't control the market, because I think, as we've discussed before at Strategy and Resources, I think at full council as well last time. So a little bit like this, any other market really, prices fluctuate and we can't control that, but we could get a better unit price with this boiler. And also the faster baling means we reduce queuing time when our guys are on as well, which is quite making queues up at Brinsworthy every day now when they're queuing up to Arm Road.
It would also encourage reduce our carbon footprint, because when the vehicles are queuing, a lot of them have their engines running, and if we can get more onto a lorry by making the bales bigger and a lot more weight on one bale, means over the year there's less trucks leaving and travelling across.
No, be serious. Paul, thank you. Thank you very much for the report. Well, I don't know if it's a question for you or Mark, really. I think it's really interesting. I was thinking the capacity point was what sort of sparked me to stand up. So you talked about obviously other people using it, and I don't know where it is. I mean, it might well be part of it, but Torridge were looking at doing a similar thing for Torridge, weren't they? Will we be sharing the facility, or is that something that we could potentially income generate by sharing the Torridge or not? And have they been approached?
I think it's possible. Sorry to interject, but yes, we've had some discussions, but there's no progress report on that at present. And what we will do is we'll talk to, I think there's some, I can't remember which councillor mentioned it, but it will give us the opportunity, once the works are done, to have a look at how we reduce the residual waste and increase recycling. Whether we go, we look at 3 weekly black bin collections again or not. I mean, that's something we need to have a look at. But also that public engagement and really working with the community and engaging the community to encourage them to separate their recycling better and increase our rates in line with government targets.
Can I come back to you?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not slightly sad, because I will mention actually, because I get a weekly report in my day job telling me how long I've been idling, and you get told off if you've been idling too much. So I was surprised to hear that we are idling in the yard. Somebody's
talking about the van, Frank.
Sorry, Councillor Busham, had your hand up then.
Oh,
yeah, sorry, the transparency I thought was a way of conveying part of my question, which is I remember that there's a large amount of concrete works which are going to happen during this project. and also the machinery. Can you give us the projected lifespans separately of the machinery and of the lifespan of the concrete which is going down?
Yeah, machinery should be 15 to 20 years, guaranteed 15 years, but existing equipment in place around the country is still going after 20 years. Concrete, I haven't got the detail about the concrete life, unfortunately.
We're not actually pouring an awful lot of concrete. I think the only concrete pouring will be in the pits for the conveyors to Leyland.
2 buildings are knocking down. So knocking down the existing porter cabin and the Weybridge office. So that'll have to be concreted over just to make it a flat surface again. It's not particularly thick.
But we're not doing the existing slab will stay as is. That's been we've had structural surveys done on it. And I think in an ideal world, you'd probably relay the whole thing if money was no object, but it's not absolutely necessary, and it'll last us for the next 20 years than the existing slab.
So it's fair to say that we're expecting this to be a 20-year lifespan.
Certainly the Baylor, yeah.
And then we'll look at the project again, but I guess. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine.
To answer Councillor Beardman's question about Torridge, I'm having discussions with their leader and their chief exec, together with our chief exec, on wouldn't it be so wonderful for Torridge to have an income generation stream through recycling, because they don't get any money for their recycling at the moment, but by using it through our recycling, they might be able to get some extra income into Torridge Council coffers. So yes, we are actively engaging with Torridge, and we would like to work with Torridge District Council for them to use our recycling centre, so it can bring in some income for North Devon and some additional income for Torridge District Council. So it's a win-win, recycling and get those capacities up, as Councillor Young pointed out earlier on. So Councillor Beardman, we're in discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Very quick, Mark, if that's okay. Now I'm going to ask the Tetra Packs. Will they be in our new wonderful Baylor? Because that is the most non-recycled recyclable item, I think, in North Devon. And probably Torridge.
No, unfortunately, we haven't got any plans to start collecting Tetra Packs.
Well, I think when you said the new Baylor won't fail, I'm afraid. But we have looked before. I think that we've talked about this in the past, and we've had some demos.
Yeah, I think the downside is we can bale it, but the people who buy it don't want it baled because it's so difficult to then reprocess. They want it in, small heights, if you like. They don't want it squashed together in tons because they can't do much with it. So it's the amount of space we would need to collect it and store it. And you'd be sending Arctic across the country with half a ton worth of Tetra Pak in it, So yeah, it doesn't really stack up for us out here in North Devon.
We'll watch it brief, I guess, and it's what we'd like to do. Any more questions?
Fine. No more questions, then we are going to.
I didn't end up early, Chair. I'm sure you wasted me after thought. I'd like to give advice to Councillor Beardman when necessary. Couple of from my own curiosity, really. Glass outside, there's a reason for that. So that's what the case is. So nasty more the bottle, is it? Really?
Yeah, pretty much, because we don't know what's in the bottles in the glass. It could contain anything. So the idea is from the EA, everything's contained. And if there is any leaks or spillages, it's all contained and goes into the right place.
Right. And the other thing, just a little bit of fun then. So from what you're saying, if we vote for this, then we're making 3 weekly collections more likely. I'm just thinking like there's an election coming up in 3 years' time.
Thank you. Thanks. Right. No more questions. We're now going to part B. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Oh, already moved it. Seconder. Thank you. All in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you, carried. Can I, thank you. We now close the meeting, this one only at 20.47.